1967 in Vietnam, when I was a part of the 128th Assault Helicopter Company out of Phu Loy. Been flying for quite a while as a crew chief door gunner. And one day I encountered a new major that came to the unit, and he just come from another overseas assignment, hadn't been in Vietnam before. And he was pretty much by the book officer. Straight guy, but he was no nonsense, and he let me know when I got out the aircraft that he was in charge, and I'd do what he said, and we're doing things by the book. So that was kind of like the welcome I got. Me and my gunner loaded up, we took off. The first time we're flying with him, and he's been in country just days, and didn't know the terrain, didn't know where we were going, and he was having to frequently look at his maps and information to find out where he's at, looking for guideposts to see a mountain or something, a river. So consequently, he wasn't flying at an altitude that we were comfortable with. He was up high enough so he could see all these landmarks and everything below him, but low enough to get shot at and not low enough to avoid it, flying at treetop level. So he was kind of like at a dangerous level. So we're flying in what we call a free fire zone back then. That means there was an area where there was a known enemy. They're not supposed to be friendlies down there. And if you see activity down there or you're shot at, you didn't have to call in and get permission to return fire. You could fire back. And that's an odd thing, but there are rules of war. In Vietnam, there were some areas, if you get fired at, you had to call in and get permission to fire back. And somebody in Saigon or someplace else would get an officer, and they'd have a meeting, and they could make a decision. Maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes later, you get a response, oh yeah, you can return fire. By then, you either shot down, you got damage done, or you left the area. So it was really kind of strange thing. Anyway, back to this free fire zone. We're flying over an area where the Ho Chi Minh trails end, and there's infiltration of North Vietnamese bringing supplies down there. So there was a lot of movement down there from time to time. There were still some villages down there, though. So we were kind of resident of that fact. So we're flying over this dirt road, and down below what appears to be a formation of uniformed soldiers. They all wear black, all dressed the same. And they're marching down this road, and they're carrying what looks like weapons on their shoulders. There's about 30 of them, and there's a guy in the front. And they look like, for all apparent reasons, they're marching on down the road. Well, I'm looking at it and thinking it was kind of odd. But my new officer, the major, he goes, hey, there's VC down there. They're marching in formation. And I go, what? He says, get on your machine gun. I want you to open it up, shoot them. Now we're talking 30 guys and a leader there marching down a road. It just didn't feel right. I mean, I've been in country a while. I've never seen a formation of VC. And a part of me just had that feeling. And I always go with my feelings. And my feeling was, no, something's not right. So I told the officer, I told the major, I go, Major, I said, maybe we need to get a closer look. And, it could be something different. I'm giving you an order. I want you to fire and take them out. Those are VC. Those are enemy. I go, sir, my feeling is, my gut feeling is they're not. So this conversation went on for seconds, where he let me know that he was a major, he was in charge, and this is combat, and he's giving me a direct order to fire my weapon. Failure to do so would be a court-martial offense. And I said, well, then court-martial me, because something's wrong here. This doesn't feel right. And he got really mad, and he started screaming at me and everything and yelling. And finally, he turned the aircraft around the other side so the other gunner could have his gun pointing at him, and he told the other gunner, okay, you fire. I'm giving you an order. You fire at him. And to my amazement, still to this date, my gunner who flown with me for 4 or 5 months refused also to fire, stating this was the scary part, stating that his belief in my feelings was good enough for him. He wasn't going to fire. That he'd been with me too long and too many times, that he trusted my instincts. And this infuriated the major. And at that point in time, he's reciting military law and the fact that there's two of us refusing a direct order, which makes this a court-martial offense. And he's going to make sure that we both go to Leavenworth for life or firing squad or 20 years or whatever he could get. But he wasn't going to handle this insubordination. And we both just stood by and we just said, sir, we're willing to go down and take a look. So finally, after he's debated whether he was going to call an airstrike in on these guys or not, he decides to follow our advice, and he swoops down to about 100-foot level. And as we go over him, I told him, I said, look, fly over him. If they look like there's any action at all, we're going to open up on them. And I got a M60 machine gun, fires 750 rounds a minute. It's not going to take much to decimate them. So we fly down about 100 foot, and we're going over the top. And then it dawns on all of us what we just saw. It's a formation of children from the local village, all wearing black pajamas, with a Catholic priest leading them in the front. And they're walking to what appears to be the community vegetable garden. And what they have on their shoulders are shovels and rakes and hoes and instruments of farming. And I think all of us were speechless. We all kind of froze. I couldn't see the major's face, but I imagine it was probably white. And he didn't say anything. And I said, sir, I don't think we need to take these guys out. And we all just got quiet the rest of the flight. But I noticed something else. When we got back, the major had changed. This is only his first week or so in Nam, but he changed. All of a sudden, the next time I saw him, he was listening to me. He was listening to the crew members. He became probably the best officer I ever flew with after that. Totally receptive. So I guess that me and my gunner, who, in my opinion, we pulled off the bravest thing that I've ever done in Vietnam. In other words, disobeying direct orders, facing a life sentence or 20 years or death sentence, we didn't know what. But facing that, we stood for our convictions and were willing to take it. Not too many people, if they had a direct order facing court-martial, ruining the rest of their life, or following orders, most people would follow orders. So there comes a time and a place where you have to listen to yourself. I just wish I'd remember the gunner's name, because to me that was the bravest thing that anyone ever did, because he was totally trusting in me. So, I mean, I don't know how to explain how I knew, but I just knew. Nothing felt right about the thing, besides the fact of marching in formation, but it just, I listened to my heart, and my heart said no. Had I listened to my commanding officer on the aircraft, I would have killed 30 children and a Catholic priest. That's got to be at least a cardinal sin, not good karma.